Hello and welcome to the SFCA podcast. Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us. Welcome everyone. What a spring. The weather has been amazing. The busiest month in South Florida is here. Just to give you a little dabble of what we're going through or what has transpired in the last 13 plus days. Winter Party, Film Festival, Spring Break, Calle Ocho, World Baseball Classic going on, Jazz in the Garden this past weekend, Dade County Youth Corps is ramping up. We've got the Ultra Music Festival just around the corner, Miami Opens just around the corner, Deerfood Seafood Festival. We also have the Monster on South Beach. We're going to talk about that. For those of you just joining us, thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate your support. A special recognition to all the sales teams, hotel managers, and support staff on the call. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome to the call as we share facts, figures, and stats on South Florida tourism. We also have some very entertaining and informative facts that we hope you'll enjoy. Today we have South Beach and Wynwood royalty. More on that in a second. I want to ensure that everyone is familiar with the chat feature. You're welcome to ask questions of the panel via the chat and Q&R feature. We have merchandise. We have gifts. As always, want to make sure that everybody enjoys. Thank you for everybody responding on the chat. All have been made active on the chat, so you can respond, ask questions, and respond to the questions that we will ask in order to get your merchandise. On deck today, as far as gifts, we have a $50 gas card that we'll be giving away. We have 4 passes to the Monster and also 4 passes to the Wynwood Walls. How do you win? You listen to the question, be the first to give the right answer via the chat, and you're a winner. You can only win once on the call, so if you win, you'll be disqualified from the next question or any other future questions as well, just to give everybody a ample chance to win these great prizes. I'd like to introduce our panel. As always, the man that has all the information, data, stats, and everything else on South Florida tourism, Mr. Andrew Wobensmith with the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. Also, we have Ceci Velasco, the queen of South Beach and Ocean Drive. She's got all things South Beach and all things Ocean Drive. And then special guests this month are a few. We have Jessica Goldman-Sebnick, co-chair of Goldman Properties and CEO of Goldman Global Arts. We also have Daniel Pezzett. He is a director of operations for Goldman Properties. We have Lisette Garcia Arrogante from the city of Miami Beach. She's director of tourism in the cultural department. And then we have creator and producer of The Monster, Mr. Zik Zupar. So we're delighted to welcome our first guest, a pioneer and leader in the South Florida art and cultural community. Her late great father, Tony Goldman, developed South Beach and Wynwood. In fact, I would say Wynwood was created by the Goldman family. Tony also served as a chairman of the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau as well. Jessica worked closely with her father and has followed in her father's footsteps and continues his legacy in developing Wynwood to what it is today, an amazing art and cultural epicenter. If you have not been to Wynwood Walls, you're missing out a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce you to Jessica Goldman-Sebnick.
Good morning. Good morning. I couldn't be more excited to be here. And, Miguel, as you were talking about all the different things happening in Miami, I think to myself, wow, what an extraordinary city we live in. What an extraordinary time we are living in. And we're just really honored to kind of share some of our joy with the things that we're doing and hopefully welcome many of you back to Wynwood if you haven't been, into the Wynwood Walls if you haven't been either in a while or ever. And so we're super, super passionate. We love this city. I consider myself a self-proclaimed ambassador. We are known around the world for doing amazing things as a city, and really kind of I look at the South Florida Concierge Association as also kind of deputized ambassadors. You kind of share the best of our city with the people that come to visit here, and so we're really, really grateful for all that you do And, we're grateful to have a couple of minutes just to share some of the things that we're really excited about. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen. Hold on one second. Okay, let's see. And hopefully this works. There we go. All right. Everyone see my screen?
We see it. You're good.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. So I am here today representing the Wynwood Walls. And so really, the Wynwood Walls, we like to think of as the epicenter of culture, the epicenter of an incredible neighborhood that keeps growing and growing and growing, and has gone from a horizontal neighborhood into a vertical neighborhood. And, my dad, Tony Goldman, we came to Wynwood in 2005. I'll just give you a little snapshot of history. We saw an amazing opportunity because of the location of Wynwood, because it had the potential to be a walkable neighborhood. At the time, 2005, Miami was really very much of a vehicular neighborhood, a vehicular city. And so we're New York City people, and we love to walk. And this was a perfect place to be able to do that. And it also had a lot of graffiti, and it also had the core, it had a lot of really interesting kind of creative vibes to it. And so we created the Wynwood Walls. This is really what you're seeing here is, it's the backs of all of our buildings. This was a gravel parking lot, and we brought the greatest street artists in the world to come paint here. And so I am the lead curator. I scour the country, the world for the best of the street art, genre, and we bring them here. And what's incredible is that they're bringing their talents, they're bringing their passion, they're bringing some of their magic, and they're leaving it here for our guests to really enjoy. And if you haven't been to the Wynwood Walls, I promise you walk through the walls and it changes your perspective. It changes your mood. There's nothing, you cannot walk through here without feeling a sense of joy. And it really represents not just our city, but it represents the absolute best in the world when it comes to street art. And we'll share this presentation with you. So, it's a lot to read, and it gives you a real sense of the history and the things that we're talking about here. We have pre-COVID, we had about 3 million visitors per year. Now we have about 1 million visitors a year and ramping up, consistently. We have over 21 countries represented. We've been owned and operated for over 13 years. We've had over 113 of the greatest street artists come paint, lots of spray paint, lots of gallons of paint. Our visitor profile, 85% are tourists. They're coming from lots of different places. We have about 10% are from Florida, 5% from the Tri-County area, 75% of which are adults. We get an amazing amount of young people, which for me personally is really, really wonderful and exciting. And then we went, when COVID happened, we kind of took an opportunity to really think about what we wanted the Wynwood Walls to be for the next 10 years. And so, because it's so important, it's so integral, not just to the Wynwood neighborhood, but to South Florida in general. And so, we really thought about it, and we decided to go to a timed and ticketed model. And so we charge, and so adults are $12, seniors are $10, military is $10. We have a Miami-Dade County residence discount, which is $8. Students, which are from 12 to 18, are $5, and children under the age of 12 are free. And so, with that, we have been able to kind of commit to a really, an extraordinary amount of programming and improvements, and really when we decide on decided on a ticketed model, we looked at galleries, museums, we looked at all kinds of different things that when people have an opportunity to make a choice of where they're going to spend their time, we wanted it to be very accessible. So, you can go to Starbucks and get something for $12. So we wanted it to be really, really approachable and, and something that was kind of a no-brainer. We have, as part of our amenities, we have 2 galleries, actually 3, in the Wynwood Walls. We have the Goldman Global Arts Gallery, which is committed to solo shows. We do about 4 to 5 solo shows per year. We just had one by an artist by the name of Hebrew Brantley. And then you'll see the next one we're doing. So that is dedicated to one artist. And it gives you a really beautiful array of their fine art, their sculpture work. We have another gallery, which is also the Goldman Global Arts Gallery, which is dedicated to a group show. So all of the artists that you see in the Wynwood Walls are represented with their fine art in the Goldman Global Arts Gallery, in the large gallery. So you see that's the image at the bottom there. And so all of these works are for sale. And so we realized that, people that were coming to the Wynwood Walls are really interested in art, and they might be a novice, they might be an expert, but we wanted to give people an opportunity to expand on their own collections. And so, and then the other gallery is called the Peter Tenney Experience, which if you haven't been, it's a really kind of beautiful, hopeful, and inspiring space. And then we also have the Wynwood Walls Shop, which is an expanded version. That's something we expanded it this past year. And we work with artists. Our product is all exclusive to this space, to this shop. And so we work with artists. So if you see an artist like Hebrew Brantley, you might not be able to afford one of his paintings, but you can go into the shop and buy a sticker pack, or you can buy a backpack, or you can buy a coloring book. And so again, when we wanted to have an experience for our visitors that no matter at what price point, no matter if there's nothing that you wish to buy, you can have this incredible experience, a very holistic experience. And so some of the recent improvements that we made, we have moved our welcome center. We've expanded our welcome center. It's now on Northwest 2nd Avenue, which is referred to very lovingly as Tony Goldman Way. We've expanded, as I mentioned, our Wynwood Walls gift shop, which is now just under a 3,000 square foot store, and I think one of the best design stores in the city. We've added turfing, we've added, incredible landscaping, we've enhanced our mural lighting, we've added benching and seating and shading. We have guided tours, we have dedicated Wi-Fi, and we have also something called the Street Art Experience, which I'll get to in a minute. But so you can kind of see here, the Welcome Center is the center picture. The shop is on the right. And you'll see some of the interesting picnic benches and the landscaping, and just really, really beautiful kind of, environments where before it was kind of like you came and you went, and now you really have an opportunity to stay and enjoy and sit and have a coffee, have an ice cream, or sit and find your favorite mural and sketch it. We've added, which you'll see here, a number of sculpture pieces, because I'm somewhat obsessed with sculpture at the moment. The one you see in the top center is an artist that I mentioned, Hebrew Brantley. And that is a 16-foot mural, 16-foot sculpture. And we have a number of other sculptures. We're adding sculptures. And then every year as curator, I select what I believe to be some of the really most interesting artists in the world. And so this year is this year is no different. Dulk is from Spain. Drick the Villain is from Germany. Biciclette Sanfredo is from Brazil. Leland Alves is from Brazil. Milo is from Italy. And so Michael B kind of took over the containers. We have shipping containers, and he took those over in this really bold expression of our kind of abstract color. And so every year we change. And so we always commit to the murals being there for at least a year, but on average, they're about 3 years. And so, and every year it gives us an opportunity to change. So you will always come back and find something new. And that's what makes the Wynwood Walls really, really special. It's kind of cutting edge, the best of the best in the world, and accessible. And, one of the things that I think is so successful about the Wynwood Walls is that it's very approachable. It's not intimidating. Museums and galleries for many, many people can be intimidating. We wanted to create a space that was colorful and creative and inclusive and hopeful and not intimidating. And so some of the on-site experiences, we do private tours, we have early access tours, we have official guided tours, private tours. We do a lot of education with the Miami-Dade school system and universities. We created the Wynwood Walls Foundation. So a number of the proceeds that we get from our visitors go into the foundation. We have a beautiful relationship with Big Brothers Big Sisters. We created an arts department at the Big Brothers Big Sisters headquarters. We have spray painting classes, so you can feel what it's like to be an artist and how hard it is, and what it takes. And so you can gain insight into kind of the graffiti world, the street art culture. You can learn different control techniques from a local artist that we work with. And so you learn all the different styles and lingos. And it's a lot of fun. It's super, super interactive. And then we have other types of classes, street art, spraying classes. Like I mentioned, our next exhibition is an artist named Leon Kjær. He's from Norway. He is incredibly, incredibly talented, and he does a lot of anamorphic work. And so he's doing a new mural that's going to be happening and painted in the next 2 weeks. He's doing a big anamorphic piece that's kind of going to be in the center of the Wynwood Walls, and a solo show that will kind of showcase over 20 of his fine art pieces. And then I'm going to hand it over to Danny Pizzette, my colleague, to talk a little bit about the Concierge program, because this is something, we look at you as our partners. We look at you as very, very important people that kind of share all of the amazing things that we have going on in our city. We hope we are one of them. We know we are one of them. And having all of you as partners, is very important to us. And so Danny, why don't you just talk a little bit about this program that we created?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jess. And a sincere thank you, Miguel, for having us both on. For many years, the Wynwood Walls was kind of this, outdoor public space, which there was no administration or anybody to actually contact. So now we have a full administration department, and we want the SFCA and all hotel concierges know that it's just a phone call away or a click of an email away to be in contact with someone to help you in our administration department. So you can reach out to info@thewynwood Walls, super simple, or look on Google and call the 305-576-3334 number, and we'll be able to help you. Miguel, thank you so much for getting us plugged in here. We want to let you know that we've produced flyers or pamphlets that we're going to be delivering to Miguel this week, and he'll be delivering them to each hotel accordingly. And in those flyers, if you see here on the page, it says your code here, and every hotel will be provided once they register, once they email info@thewynwood Walls, hotel specific code. So if it's the edition, it would be edition 10, and we'll create that code for you. And all of these pamphlets, you can write your code there. And so at the end of the month, we'll be sending a statement and sharing it with all the different concierges, whatever email is designated there as the main email to connect with. And with that, we'll send the report. And for every redeem code, we do pay an incentive, which is $1, and we'll send you a payment each month, and that will be distributed throughout the hotel. Also, we want to let you know that all concierges, we own and operate the Tony Hotel on Miami Beach, and everyone is very hospitable in Miami Beach. So please come visit the Wynwood Walls. Email us, let us know you're on your way, and we want to make sure that you have expedited entry and that we take care of you when you're here. So,
and can I add one last thing?
Of course,
because I know our time is out, and I know we have something to give away, but I want to just change it a little bit for a second. Well, two things. One is, and I saw it in the chat, just so that you all know, we reopened the News Cafe, and and kind of an old icon, really, really exciting. South Beach is continuing to kind of evolve, just like all of the wonderful neighborhoods in our community are evolving. I also encourage you to go check it out. I've been there multiple times. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. So I wanted to just share that. And I know we were offering, I guess, like you do free kind of a contest kind of a thing.
Correct.
But if you don't mind, I think there are 93 people on this call. I'm guessing you have a list of all of those 93.
Of course.
And I'm hoping everyone was listening and attentive and excited about what we're doing. And if it's okay, I'd like to offer, 2 free entrants to every single one of the 93 participants on the call. So we really, really want you to come. We really want you to be excited, and we want you to feel the energy of the Wynwood Walls. It's a super special place, and you will not regret it. So it's I know you don't have a lot of free time. We have to pick and choose how we spend our time, but we'd love to offer up 2 free tickets to all 92 people on the chat.
Great.
So,
thank you very much, Jessica.
You're
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
So I guess we don't have to do the quiz anymore. It's already done. Everyone's a winner on this one.
There you go.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Danny.
Yes.
All right. We move on to the man with all the data, stats, and information on South Florida, Mr. Wobensmith. You are on next. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and a great presentation. Thank you, Jessica, and all of you for that great information on Wynwood Walls. I will confess, quite honestly, I haven't been to Wynwood Walls. I know I've outed myself here on our Zoom call, so maybe now with these few tickets, I will join the ranks of those who have seen it. So I really appreciate that. And Jessica, you said something else that I actually talk about a lot with folks when we talk about tourism. You mentioned that we're ambassadors, right? We're ambassadors. I like to think of a line that I heard once that I think is really very comprehensive, is that we are guests in our visitors' experience, right? So we don't always realize what kind of a role we play in our visitors. Our visitors come here and they do what they do. Whether it's jumping on their car on Collins Avenue or going to see an art exhibit or going to eat, here we are in this whole experience. And our former CEO, Mr. Talbert, used to always talk about how about our visitors, and tourism is everybody's business. And I never forget that's really where it's at. So that said, I'll start. For those of you that are coming this every month, I usually go on and on and on about statistics until I can't talk anymore. So this month, I've actually cut down my presentation quite a bit because there's just so much. And every month, I feel like it builds. And last month, actually, for those of you on this call, I think it went pretty deep, very deep, so much so that I shared my deck with a coworker after the meeting. And he said to me, he says, "Man, you shared all of this. This is pretty heavy." And I said, "Well, yeah, I know. It was a little heavy." I said, "But our folks are smart, and our folks get it. And our folks come to this call every month so they can get the most updated information." So, thank you, Elba. We love heavy, right? So I do too, right? But it is Monday morning, and I did attend all those events that Miguel was talking about. And I'm quite honestly a little spent after a weekend of Jazz in the Gardens and Calle Ocho. So I started working my presentation last week, and Interestingly enough, some economic things have happened since then, which almost makes me think, well, maybe we should postpone my presentation for like another week, Miguel, 2 weeks, to see where some of these things net out with the banks and so forth. But that said, we'll just talk about tourism like we always do every month. I'll give you some of the insight that we see going on and some potential directions in which we think we're going to go. And of course, the things that go on out there are not always relevant to what goes on here in our market for tourism. But we'll do the best we can to point you in the right direction and read the tea leaves. So with that said, let me share my presentation here. A second here. Okay, can everybody see?
We see it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, well, as I mentioned, I did cut down my presentation. There's a few slides I'm not going to share. So when we send this out to you folks afterwards, you'll have some bonus slides. So there you go. But you will get a copy of this afterwards. So with that said, U.S. travel. U.S. travel is a really great source of information if you want to see what's going on in the industry, as well as what they say will be happening. And so as they've been saying, we've been saying all along, we already intuitively know travel has been growing here in the United States. We have been seeing a very robust recovery around the country. Of course, we recovered much faster than everybody else. And now people are catching up, and they're catching up quite fast. And I'm not going to read through all the slides, everything in these slides here, but it's good to talk about what U.S. travel says is going on right now. And some of the highlights they talked about are the labor market. We all know that the jobs numbers have been looking pretty good for the last several months. A lot of that, though, comes from actually leisure and hospitality jobs, which is a good thing, right? We know that we've been trying to catch up. And there's a number of reasons why it is that we're seeing more leisure and hospitality jobs, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's just more demand for travel. And with that, we are seeing a greater demand for travel for people working in that industry. So according to U.S. Travel, they said in January, about 1/4 of the jobs that were added were leisure and hospitality jobs. So that's very good for our industry. They also mentioned inflation, and we all know about that, right? We're all experiencing that in one way, shape, or form. And it's not like I haven't talked about it for months and months and months. Inflation is an issue for all of us. It's on our mind, some of us more than others. But as we talked about a little bit last month, and a little bit I'm going to talk about too, we talked about people spending, consumers. Consumers still have some money left over, and there are some reasons for that. There are a lot of savings, but also the way in which we're spending our money, which again, we talked about a little bit last month. I'll talk about it again today. The way in which we've been spending our money has changed. And because of that, there seems to be a little bit more of our pocketbooks being squeezed out for travel than it has been the last couple of years. So, I guess a couple other little stats on this page here is that we're still seeing overseas arrivals down. For the country, it's about 1/3. However, that's not for Miami. Miami's doing much better than that. When we talk about the country, they're saying it's down about 1/3 from 2019. I should qualify that, because they're also looking at some of the markets that we don't have, such as China, such as India. There are places that don't really consider Miami or South Florida to be a destination. So we are certainly doing better than the country when it comes to international travel. This travel study, Longwoods, I share this a lot. Probably half the presentations I've given have involved Longwoods research. And so it's always good to look at the survey research. It's not always perfect, and I say that a lot because I work a lot with survey research. I've been doing this for quite a few years now. Surveying is great, but it doesn't tell the whole story, right? We really try to understand what's the why behind some of the numbers, but there's what things people say and there's what they do, right? So, and I'll bring that up in a moment here. So according to Longwoods, they're saying, well, despite inflation and interest rates, travelers are on the move. So, in their most recent surveying, 1/4 of those American travelers they surveyed said they're going to be traveling in the next 60 days, which is great. Overall demand continues to be high. Number one on their list, visiting friends and relatives, and then followed by domestic leisure trip. And that's great too. I'll mention that here in Miami, we survey a lot of people. We survey a lot of visitors every year all over our county. And it has always really just been their top reason, I should say, has been domestic leisure travel. But actually in the last 2 years, we've seen a switch, much like what the survey is talking about, in that we now see more and more people coming here who are saying their number one reason is visiting friends and relatives. So I found that really interesting that their survey is saying this. For us, I think a lot of that visiting friends and relatives for us is that we have seen so many people relocate to Florida and relocate to the area. And as a result, now they've got a place. I don't know about you, but I'm a Northeast transplant. And, my home has become the de facto hotel for people from where I grew up. So I'm sure like many of you, you have a sofa open, and people who have a place to go in South Florida, they come here. So visiting friends and relatives has become very, very popular here as well. mentioned that their top things that they're going to do while they're traveling would be, again, visiting friends and family, but also shopping, exploring cities, and visiting beaches. The survey goes on to talk about the economy, which is, again, in everybody's minds. A lot of people are still saying that inflation is going to impact their decision to travel in the next 6 months. That's almost hard to say, given what we're seeing in terms of performance of travel, but that still says that people are still mindful of their budgets that we've talked about for months. Just over half say that the cost of airfare could very well impact their decision to travel, and almost as many say the gas prices. And that said, one final note here is that while most people are not saying COVID is going to have any influence on their travel plans, 30%, according to the survey, continue to think that there's going to be an impact of COVID on their travel. So I thought that was a pretty high number, but that's maybe just, that's just the numbers. I feel like every single thing out there in the survey, always 30%. It's always 30%. They say one thing or another. So is that good or is that bad? No, I think the majority of people obviously are back into travel again, confident and sure and know where they're going. So another spot here, another article from Reuters that I thought tells the story. As it says here at the top, U.S. travel companies experience high demand, but economic worries cloud their outlook. What does that mean? Well, fears of recession and impact of inflation on their budgets could curb a rebound in travel demand. However, and this is where I think really made a good point here, is they talk about these great big travel and leisure companies. They are all seeing faster rates of bookings in 2023 than in 2019. And, these are your Airbnb, Hilton, Royal Caribbean Cruises. So despite some of these things we see in the economy, that does not seem to be slowing down people and their thirst for travel. And then this next line here is what I've already talked about a little bit. And this is what really, to me, stuck out is that, as it says, the demand for travel contrasts with declining home improvement sales and other discretionary purchases that have hurt furniture stores and retailers like Home Depot. Why is that important? Well, that really backs up what we've been talking about. In the beginning of the pandemic, people changed the way in which they spent their money. They went from spending less on services to more on those goods. And what are those goods? Well, things like furniture, bicycles, cars, things from Home Depot. And now we see that shift has occurred where now the spend is moving away from goods, disposable goods, over to services, of which travel is a service. So not only are we talking about that from a survey standpoint, but we also see that here in the actual numbers. And even down here at the bottom, I thought this was a good quote here by Home Depot CEO. Says you can't fight the tide with consumer spending back to services, people traveling and whatnot. Another study by Alliance C, they talked about the top spring break destinations. And so whenever I see this information, I'm always looking for Miami. And what got me was that, look at this table down here at the bottom. We're not number one, folks. I'm sorry, but we've enjoyed this status. It seems like every study I've seen out there for travel has got us so far up there. And while I'm glad that we made the top 10 list, I'd be a little upset if we didn't make the top 10 list. However, what this is telling us, and Orlando is an example of a market that's really been coming back very, very, very strong. They are also very dependent upon international, but we can see just from the stats from their market that they're coming back even stronger this year. That now they are becoming more and more competitive again. Much are these other destinations here. We are certainly not the only business on the block here. So even places like Los Angeles, Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa are also very high in terms of travel intent for spring breakers. Some local updates here. Michelin Guide. It's pretty exciting that we're adding more and more Michelin restaurants to the guide. And so last year we did a whole bunch of them, and this year 8 more will be going into the guide. They do not have stars yet, but just want to point this out here. We have come so far in terms of a dining destination. More and more people are telling us that they're coming here just to eat, just to visit these restaurants. So having more Michelin rated restaurants is just, great. Just more and more reasons to come and visit. And so those 8 restaurants that they're adding are just right down there at the bottom of your list for your information. Let's dig into some other numbers here. The airport, right? Because the airport is very important. We know that the airport directly correlates, obviously, with the visitation to our area. So what's going on at MIA is very important. What I've done here is thrown a bunch of stuff here. We've seen this in one iteration or another in many of my presentations. But looking at the split of domestic international passenger arrivals is important to us. And why is that important? Well, you can see here for what is going on for the last month. We normally saying pre-pandemic, we would see about a 50-50 split between domestic and international. And as we've talked about, international is still lagging. So this is just another way for us to look and say, well, what's that look like here for our market? And what we can see here is that turquoise line on the top is what the percentage of domestic, and then the converse is the international that we've still not quite caught up yet. We are still kind of dancing around that 60-40 mark or in the 50s. So not quite there yet, but we are certainly approaching that. And then down at the bottom real quick, that table is just simply the breakdown domestic international for what it was in January, as well as all of last year versus the prior year, as well as 19. And really all I'm going to say there is that the domestic volume has been huge. The airport has been growing. In 2022 was 9% more over 2019 in terms of overall passenger volume. So the airport has really grown significantly. However, international is still not quite back, but getting very close. We've talked about seat capacity, and for those of you that don't know what that is, I just think about hotel and hotel rooms, and I think about airplanes and the number of seats. You know, how many people are we going to put in these seats? So in this way, seat capacity is just simply the way to say, hey, you know, all these different airlines have seats coming into our airport, put them together, where are they going? And this gives us an indication of where we could be seeing more and more people come from, or less and less people come from, because this list changes all the time in terms of demand of travel. So what I've done is I took the list that I shared last month, took the most recent file, compared the two to say, did anything change? And what we see here is, well, not real big changes. We see that DR seats actually allotted a few more DR and some less from Brazil. In Q1, Q2, the same thing, but we also see some other little spots here and there. We see that Brazil actually Q2 and Q3 have taken a few down, as well as places like Spain. Nothing major here, but this is really where we think that the most traffic is going to be coming from for the next couple of quarters. Well, this really kind of sums it up here. We've talked about the visa wait times, right? So we talked about a lot of markets, and this is a big barrier for international travel to the United States. And we can see here that the estimated wait times for a lot of countries are huge, right? We've talked about Brazil quite a bit. Brazil has been really lagging. Brazil is one of our top markets. And you can see here that, for example, Sao Paulo, Brazil, on average, 547 days to go see somebody to get your visa renewed. So it's an issue. Although I was really surprised at number one, Bogota, Colombia, right? Like, why is that there? We don't have any issues with Colombian visitation, but it still looks like people are impacted. We see that there's 4 different cities for Brazil. Excuse me. There is half a dozen cities for Canada, believe it or not. So there's still a lot of areas around the globe that are going to be waiting a little bit before they're able to come travel to the United States. Digging into some hotel performance on a regional perspective here, looking at Miami-Dade County and then the segments that we have it cut out by, as well as Broward and the Florida Keys, so our neighbors to the north and the south, shows that we're still doing pretty well. Hotels are pretty full. Our occupancy has been down a little bit for the last couple of weeks over last year, but not terribly. Our average daily rate has been down a little bit. Last year were some record rates, and now here we are wrapping around a year later, and we're going to see that our rates are not going to be quite as high as they were last year. I know it's kind of a bummer, but that's the way it's going to be. We enjoyed that top status of hotel rates, and here we are a year later, and we're still charging really high rates, but not quite as high as last year. Interestingly, Broward actually has been doing a little bit better in terms of their overall percent change in rates. And actually, Broward, if you look at the rate, $245 versus our $277 is actually quite high. So they're doing very well there and still growing their rate. However, if you look at Florida Keys, they were charging such high rates last year, and maybe they still are, but they're 20%. They were 20% less than the previous year. So I guess they're no longer going to be able to charge quite as much as they have been. I'm not going to go through every single number here, but I've included some weekly performance so that you can see a trend, and you'll have this deck to share, to look at and to share with your folks. And what we can see here, the top table in the county, since the beginning of the year on a weekly basis, I made that little block there to show you what the last 4 weeks have been. Really just look at the green and the red. And what it's telling us is that occupancy has been really strong. Demand has been very, very strong all year long. And for the most part, remains still strong, but we do see some sliding a little bit in occupancy, but really that rate is what I talked about there. The rates are sliding a little bit more than we would have thought they may have. And of course, that corresponds into a RevPAR. And then looking down at the table, down below it, you have Miami Beach, which is a big driver of the overall county. And you can see some of the same things. And rate has actually gone down a little bit more in Miami Beach than it did a year ago. 2 other areas, downtown Miami and the airport, some similar stories, although I'll make one point here, is that the airport area, if you look at the occupancy, it's been very, very high, and that's normal. But they're 80 and 90%. And they're probably of all the different areas of Miami in terms of hotel inventory, they have some of the most inventory as well. And their rates have actually held up, and they've actually done even better than they were doing a year ago. I have not shared this data before, but I was talking to somebody in one of our departments, and he mentioned this, and I thought, God, I have to share this with you guys. This is really, really something important. As you know, Miami is a meeting market as well, even though we are a leisure market, largely a leisure market. However, we do have a lot of meetings and conventions that come here. And this was really interesting to me because I pulled out some information looking at the number of leads for meetings coming in from CVent, which keeps track of a lot of different events coming in here. And so the leads have been coming in hot and heavy. And so that top chart there just shows the number of leads coming in the last 3 months versus what it was a year ago. And then you see that table to the right, those columns are percent change for received and awarded. Both of these are important. First off, received really just tells us how many more or less leads are coming into our market from a year ago. But then that awarded is the one that we really, really care about, right? And what we're seeing here is there's quite a bit of disparity in terms of what's coming in versus what we're actually landing. So while we do see a huge volume of leads coming in for the upcoming year, we are not really closing the deal. And that's just, there's no other better way to say it as far as I'm concerned. And that column to the right there says awarded. January and February, we were doing really well in that respect. But it looks like the rest of the year, we are actually not closing as many meetings we did as opposed to last year. And I am told that there is one reason for that. You probably already know, but our hotel rates can be a barrier. They're just really high. So while people really want to come here, there are also, as I've mentioned, there's a lot of competition. There are a lot of other places to go that maybe their rates are not really, not as much of a problem. Looking at the next 90-day reserved occupancy for hotel, as well as short-term rentals. This is our daily reserved occupancy. Those bars indicate what is on the books right now for the upcoming 90 days. And then those red dots, which are also very important, show what it was last year. What we can see right now for the top hotel, our hotel demand is on par with last year or better, and as I've already mentioned, and that is really great. It does soften, as I've talked about, for the upcoming months, though. We don't see as strong demand coming up for several months that we did last year. It's not terrible, but it's just not quite as strong. I will point out F1. We haven't really mentioned F1, but I think it's time to talk about F1 and give you folks some information. Right, Jesse's like, oh yeah, F1, right? There was a lot of talk last year about F1 and the good and the bad that came with F1, right? So this year, I think we've learned a few lessons, but it's always good to revisit some of this information. So what we see in terms of F1, we see demand for hotel on par with last year. I don't know how to read that, but I would say it's probably not as good as we would like, because last year was almost experimental in terms of understanding demand. We thought that F1 was going to drive more demand to our hotels, but as last year, as we saw, it wasn't always the case. And what we're seeing this year, it's about on par. Maybe that Saturday night right now is doing a little bit better than a year ago, but that's where we're at. In terms of short-term rentals are doing pretty well. They're on par with last year, but certainly nothing else really going on there. And as we've been seeing for months and months and months, short-term rentals are not pacing as strong this year as they did last year. This slide I shared a year ago, it has bounced all over the Greater Miami Convention Visitors Bureau and our friends, because this was the learnings that we got from F1 last year. I used this slide here in this, this presentation last year. And so what we did is we looked at how F1 performed in Miami and also Fort Lauderdale, or Mr. Talbert likes to call it our neighbors to the north. So what did we see happen? Well, we saw really high rates across the board in both areas. What's important to pay attention to are those two bottom tables. And that left table is Miami in terms of what those 4 days of F1 did in terms of occupancy, ADR, RevPAR, and demand. We compared it to 19 because 19 was, of course, the last quote unquote normal year. And then we got into 22. And what did we see? Yes, very, very high ADR, right? But we lost a lot of room demand. So in other words, what we saw happen here, and you can see it to the table to the right, is that Fort Lauderdale did very well. They also did very well, but look at their demand, that bottom figure there. They picked up a lot of demand that we did not pick up. And a lot of that has been attributed to our rates, and that we were unable to change some of our rates while all this last minute business came in. They saw what, they could buy. They could basically, if you look at these rates, Fort Lauderdale rates at times were half of what ours were. So it just made it a no-brainer for a few people to go up there. So the lesson there, I think that we got from last year was that perhaps some of our rates or some of our strategies were a little bit too high or too aggressive. And as a result, Fort Lauderdale certainly capitalized on that. Now, looking at this reserved occupancy on a monthly basis for the rest of the year, looks like what I've talked about, upcoming 2 months are fairly strong, but we are seeing some lagging. Okay, we are seeing lagging just like we did. I shared this chart last month. I've just added another column to the right to show you is that pace of booking going up or down. We see that, and then there's in that table as of January 2nd, as of February 6th, and then of course last week, we see that pace is actually from January to February. We saw that pace really decline rapidly. But we see some comeback in the next month. So maybe there was some initial, doubt or hesitation on booking your travel, but we do see, while it's still not great, this demand is not what it was last year, but it is maybe less bad than what it was looking like last month. So we'll continue to watch this. Demand is, the indicator that we watch the most here at the Bureau, that really tells us what people are thinking and where we think what they're going to be doing. So the story here is that we are still not seeing as strong a demand as last year. That said, one caveat, last year we had a record year, so we are comparing to a record year in terms of demand. Finally, this is the last heavy stats slide here. Our forecast that came from STR in February. I've had a lot of conversations about this forecast. I think it's aggressive, to be honest with you. And you'll have this again to look at for yourself. What I've done here is I've shown every month forecasted for the rest of the year as well as the full year. This forecast came out last month, and I boxed in January because we can look at January, what they turned and whether they forecasted and how we actually did. And there's good and bad there. The good news is actually STR nailed the room demand. So they just were able to nail the room demand forecasted. However, what they did not nail, as I've already mentioned, is our average daily rates. So while, for example, in January, they said we should be at around 271, we actually came in less at 253. And while the information's not up there, I can tell you that February was a similar story. We did not make the rates that they thought that we were going to make. However, it remains to be seen where we're going to go. One final takeaway from here is that STR is projecting that we're going to have almost a 2% increase in demand over last year, which I find a little bit hard to comprehend, given that we had such a strong last year. But we'll see. This is STR's opinion. You can certainly take it or leave it as you see fit. So finally, the takeaways here: travel is still high. It's positive. Spring break, by all measures, is looking to be very busy. We're on many people's lists, but then again, so are a lot of other destinations. It's become much more competitive out there. International visitation, as we talked about, is going to lag. Visa issues are still present, and they are still quite a formidable challenge. Hotel demand, as I mentioned, is holding on. It's driven by leisure, short-term bookings. Interest in Miami for groups is strong, but like I said, we're not closing the deals like we would like to. Rates are a barrier. Formula One, as I mentioned, it's on par with last year's demand, but that shows us that there's opportunity. As I mentioned, our ADRs were really high last month and may have forced business north. So if you're a hotelier, you may want to reevaluate your strategies to prevent this from happening again. And then finally, STR hotel forecast I shared, increase in demand, it's bullish, we think, and we're continuing to watch that. As we mentioned, we're seeing that the rates are expected to soften. That is it, folks. Went through the rest of that without having used my water. So any questions there? I'm always happy to answer those things. You will get a copy of this with the bonus slides after this call. And what can I say? I'm going to probably send everybody a survey as well, so you can evaluate me. Shocker, right? That I would send you a survey, but you'll be able to evaluate me and tell me how I'm doing. Maybe for these upcoming meetings, if there's things here that you would like to see, I'd be happy to share that. So,
well, thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you. Okay. Question. Are you ready for your question?
Sure.
Let's go. What is it?
Very simple.
Go ahead.
I shared visa wait times. What was the number 2 most impacted city and country?
Cancun, Orlando, Colombia. Which one is it? Let's see. Tell me if you see it. I see Colombia, Peru, Bogota,
Peru.
Lima.
Peru.
Excellent. Heinrich, you won again. Heinrich, congrats.
All right.
Heinrich, we will send you the information. We will send you the card via Zelle as we did before. Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. If anyone has any questions, we can still answer them via the chat while everyone else is on board. We're running a little bit behind. Next up, we have Lisette with the City of Miami Beach. Hello, Lisette. How are you?
Miguel, thank you for having me. I'm going to keep
You're
it
welcome.
really quick because we love ending meetings on time, right?
Yes,
so I'm going to give you a quick recap of Miami Beach Live, which is a city's produced event in the month of March. We have a heavy focus this year on fitness. We also have some concerts. So I'm going to share my screen very quickly just to give you a quick recap. Can everyone see my screen?
We see it.
Wonderful. So we kicked off this weekend number 2 with the Miami Marlins World Classic Fan Fest at Loomis Park. They had wonderful activations, as you can see. They had batting cages, domino tables, cornhole, and they also had a concert with the famous Pavarotti of Salsa, Tito Nieves. It was a wonderful event. If any of you were able to visit and see the wonderful family-friendly activations that we had, it was a real hit. Then we also kicked off the King of the Courts, Queen and King of the Court Crown Series. It's a international event from the Netherlands. It was their U.S. debut. This is a stadium that we have located between 6th and 9th Streets on the beachfront. So they had a wonderful event with Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it was really well attended. As you can see, I mean, the grandstands are free, so it was also a wonderful event to be able to have our guests kind of walk up to the stadium and be able to join in. On Saturday night, the city curated a wonderful program with Nile Rodgers and Chic. So if you remember him, he has, I think, one of the biggest catalogs of production. I mean, aside from his work with Chic, he's produced like a Virgin, a lot of amazing, and he just got a Grammy for Beyonce's Cuff It. So they did wonderful renditions of all their classics, plus all the songs that also he's produced. And then we also had an opening act of Anderson .Paak, who did a DJ set, and he also performed a little bit of music and sang. It was really, really a wonderful concert series. So then for this weekend, I'm going to share something else. And I do want to thank our partners at the GMCBB. They are wonderful, and they help us with capturing all this information on their website, which I'm going to share. If you go to the MiamiandTheBeaches.com and check on Miami Beach Live, you can see all of the wonderful programming that we have for the rest of the entire month. Weekend number 3 coming up we have the Kiwanis Club of Little Havana. You know, they're a 47-year-old organization, and they are going to do a new Carnival Miami experience called Art on the Drive. That's going to be on Ocean Drive proper, from like 7th to like 12th Streets. And if you go to the website, you can see starting Friday, they have 3 stages. They have a New Orleans jazz stage, they have a country stage, and they have a Miami stage with a wonderful local talent. They're also going to have an art zone, a kids zone, a barbecue contest. I mean, there's just so much for you to do. I'm so excited that they will be coming. And if you go back again, like on our website, we also have, I'm so excited, the AVP Pro Beach Volleyball Tour. That's the Association of Volleyball Professionals. They are a 40-year organization. They're going to be celebrating their 40th anniversary on Miami Beach with the Miami Beach Open. That's also in the stadium that I mentioned between 6th and 9th Streets beachfront. The grandstands are free. So if you go to their website, you'll be able to check how to check in and register for your free tickets. But this will be going on, from Thursday through Sunday. And this is all Olympic and professional volleyball players, just like this past weekend with King of the Courts. We also have, it's almost like a Volleypalooza. We have the FIU Surf and Turf Invitational. That's happening at the 8th Street volleyball courts. And then on 12th Street on the beachfront, we're going to have model volleyball. So you can check out, collegiate to Olympic to models and bikinis playing volleyball this weekend. We also have, as part of the Kiwanis Art on the Drive, we have the Monster, which you'll hear Nick tell you a little bit more about. So we have something for everyone coming up this weekend. And then I'm going to give you a really quick look at what we have coming in April, which I'm going to take this opportunity because this kind of affects some other properties as well. And that is, we have the National Cycling League. If you're familiar, can you see my screen? The National Cycling League is going to make its debut in Miami Beach on Saturday, April 8th. They're doing a criterion run, which is a tight, fast-paced race on bicycles in our city from Ocean Drive to Washington Avenue, from 8th Street to 13th Street, say that 3 times. And I just want to show you really quickly a little glimpse of what it will look like. And it's just a really amazing event. This has been vetted internally with our city, with our fire, PD, transportation departments, and they've also presented this to the ODA, So Be Safe, Washington Avenue Bid, and have all received positive responses. So it's really going to be an exciting and thrilling race that you would want to share with your guests on Saturday, April 8th, and this is going to be in the evening. So there will be some road closures. We will be sharing some more of that information so that you make sure that you let your guests know what to expect on Saturday the 8th. But I mean, I think they're going to get a great free show. Are there any questions?
Any questions from anyone? No? Okay, Lisette, your question to answer for a $50 gas card.
Sure. What organization is going to be celebrating their 40th anniversary in Miami Beach next weekend?
Here we go. What organization? 40th anniversary? AVP?
Yeah, that's it. AVP.
Kina, congratulations. You are the winner. Wonderful. Excellent. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Lisette.
Miguel. Thank you, everyone.
And we move on to Nick. Nick, are you ready?
I sure am. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. We are bringing the world's biggest inflatable obstacle course to Miami Beach this coming Friday. Let's get the presentation up for you.
Please. We see it. If you want to make it full screen so we don't see it. Perfect.
There we go. So this is the monster, folks. We're coming all the way from London this Friday to Loomis Park, Miami Beach from March 17 to 26. Miami Beach, are you ready? This is a international sensation. We've been touring the UK, London, and a lot of major cities around the world, and this is our USA debut. We're super excited to be bringing it to such an iconic location at an iconic time of year. What is the monster? Well, let me show you.
I'll see. It's a video. We don't hear it.
It's all about people. It's all about people having 100% pure fun. So imagine a festival site where the star of the show is a 1,000-foot bounce house obstacle course. There's live DJs and a load of other entertainment, including drag queens, karaoke, retro games, bingo, delicious food and drink, and a whole lot more. This is aimed at adults and families. It's about making adults feel like kids again, and it's about giving an incredible experience to kids and to families alike. Here's what some of the audience has to say about it.
It was incredible. It was so much fun. Really exhausting. The best way I spent a Friday night in London. Fitting out everything's incredible. It's like a festival. Like everybody's drinking, everybody's having fun. It's amazing. Yeah, it was fun. I like it's so like it's all fun. Yeah, no, it's good fun. Real tough, but good fun. It's quite long, isn't it? The 18-meter mega slide. Yeah, I was
I think we should give a prize to everybody who was able to understand all of the accents. Good luck if you were. So you can see it's more than just a party. It's about teamwork. It's about fitness. It's about people having huge amounts of fun. And it really is an event for everybody: experience seekers, fitness fanatics, party animals, office groups, couples, kids and families, you name it. Everybody loves the monster. Tickets are $19 for Miami Beach residents, $27 general admission, $60 and then $200 for your VIP packages, and group rates for groups of 4+. You can get your tickets at themonster-usa.com. This is a huge event for not only the people who live in and around Miami Beach, but for all of the tourists and all the people coming into Miami. So the concierges and you guys are key to getting this the word out there. We're only here for 10 days of absolute mayhem in the middle of Miami Beach. So please do everything you can to help us get the word out. And saying that, we want to give away some tickets. So let's move with the quiz. The question is, how many obstacles are there in the Monster Inflatable Assault Course. How many obstacles, folks?
How many? 18?
No.
21?
No.
15?
No.
22?
No. Let's go a lot higher. We're
40,
not even close.
40,
Yes.
89.
Yeah,
40?
who said 40?
40, Barbara Van Heusen.
Good on you, Barbara. Congratulations. We will see you and 3 friends at the Monster sometime soon.
Excellent. Remember, Barbara, they're only here for 10 days, so we need to get this done quickly. I will put you in contact with Nick so you can get your tickets. Thank you very much, Nick. And
Thanks,
if you
everybody.
haven't seen, if you have a chance, Google Nick's name, Nick Zupar, and quite an extensive resume of all the shows you put on around the world. I'm impressed.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we've done a lot of stuff. The most important one now is this that's coming to Miami Beach. Look at it behind me. It's huge.
It is. It is. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Real
everybody.
quick, Ceci's on board. She wants to say a few words.
Just one little comment. I think you made an excellent point, is getting the word out. And the city has invested so much in putting all of these activations together, as far as funding, as far as time, everything. So they asked us to help. We are, the Ocean Drive Association is hand delivering all the flyers to all the district hotels, so the front desk clerks have something to give their guests. They need to know, our guests need to know that this is available to them, and not just walk by saying, oh, that's a private event, has nothing to do with me. So really help us get the word out. I know they're on the trolleys, there's QR codes, but getting the word out is what's going to be critical to make sure that everything is successful.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ceci. Thank you to everyone. Congrats to our winners. Everyone's going to get 2 tickets. It was on the call to the Wynwood Walls. Thank you to Jessica Goldman. Congratulations, Cecilia, for your $50 gift card. Congratulations, Trina, for your $50 gift card. And 2 tickets to the Monster. We will be giving that away to Barbara as well. If you have time, join us tonight, the Miami Children's Museum at 6:30 registration, 7 o'clock meeting. We have a presentation by the Downtown Development Authority with an 8 p.m. reception. Now, the reception's really cool. We've got Rita's Ices. We've got Groot Hospitality. We have Miami's Best Pizza. We have Orange Blossom. We have Extra Virgin. We have Mary's Gold, which is an amazing restaurant. We also have the Major Food Group. So some heavy hitters tonight at the Miami Children's Museum. If you can join us, we have about 100 plus already RSVP'd. And in closing, measure life by not the breaths you take, but by the moments that take your breath away. We live in an amazing world. Let travel move you. Explore, enjoy, peace, love. God bless everybody. It's 11:02. I'm 2 minutes over, but we did it. It's finished. Until next month, take care. Bye-bye.
Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho, and everywhere in between. Miami's a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us.